All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating corporate survival toolkit, taking foundational management theories and translating them into dynamic, real-world strategies for literally any business leader. If you've ever looked at a wildly successful company and wondered how they keep from completely falling apart as they scale, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to take the core principles of organizational control, the management of change, and total quality management, and distill them all down into actionable insights. So grab a coffee, get focused, and let's build your corporate survival toolkit. So here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the art of control. Number 2, navigating organizational change. And number 3, total quality management and global standards.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, the art of control, maintaining organizational stability. Now, before you can chart a course to some new continent, you've absolutely got to make sure your ship isn't taking on water. Which leads us to a deceptively simple question: how do organizations prevent total chaos? It's a crucial question because, let's face it, business is inherently chaotic. You're dealing with hundreds, maybe thousands of moving parts, constantly changing markets, and totally unpredictable resources. In that kind of environment, control is basically your central nervous system. It keeps the entire organism in balance and ensures that organizational activities don't just happen randomly, but are actually performed according to your master plans and objectives.
You know, management scholars Kunst and O'Donnell actually define this perfectly. They state that controlling is the measurement and correction of performance activities to ensure that enterprise objectives and plans are accomplished. And I love this because it brilliantly illustrates that control isn't about micromanaging your people or being some dictator in the office. It's a dynamic, objective tool. It's a continuous, forward-looking process designed to stop you from burning money, reduce wasted time, and ensure you're actually hitting your targets.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, it breaks down into a 5-step controlling process. Think of this as your actionable playbook for turning big organizational goals into measurable reality. First, you establish standards. Let's say a production target of 1,000 units a day. Step 2, you measure actual performance through reports or maybe inspections. Step 3 is comparing those two realities. Does performance equal, exceed, or fall completely below your standard? Step 4 is identifying the deviations. And finally, step 5, you take corrective action. And that could be anything from rolling out new employee training to completely revising the plans themselves.
Let's put some real numbers to this to see how powerful that fourth step really is. Let's say your predetermined sales target is 10 lakh rupees, but your actual measured sales are only 8 lakh rupees. Well, you have a deviation of 2 lakh. And that is not just a missed target. It's a very specific diagnostic signal. It tells management exactly where to focus their corrective action, totally eliminating the guesswork for leadership. It basically turns a vague feeling of, oh, we're behind, into a precise mathematical gap that needs bridging.
Now, how do you actually execute this? Well, you can blend traditional financial guardrails, things like budgetary control, financial statements, and break-even analysis, with modern, highly collaborative methods. Think about management by objectives, or MBO, where managers and employees actually sit down and jointly set goals, or management information systems that give you real-time data. Throw in tools like PERT and CPM for precise project scheduling, and you've got a seriously formidable approach. A truly strong survival toolkit is going to use a mix of both the traditional math and the modern workflow.
But here's the thing. A truly great control system has to balance a few key essentials. It needs to be simple, it has to be flexible enough to adapt to changing conditions, and of course, totally accurate. But I want you to focus specifically on economy for a second. This means the cost of running your control procedures should never, ever exceed the benefits they bring. If you're spending $3 just to track every $1 saved, your control system is fundamentally broken. It also has to be acceptable, meaning your employees actually understand and support it, rather than just feeling like they're being constantly spied on.
Moving right along to part 2, navigating organizational change, driving growth in a dynamic environment.
So once you've got control, you can't just stand still, right? Or the market will absolutely pass you by. We can define organizational change as the process of moving from the current state to a desired future state to improve effectiveness. Change is just a universal, continuous necessity. It gets driven by internal expectations like new management policies or tech shifts, but also by massive external pressures. Think about fierce competition, suddenly changing government regulations, shifting customer preferences, and the relentless march of globalization. Change isn't optional, it is mandatory for survival.
But to actually survive, this change has to be planned. It's a 6-step process that ensures these updates aren't just chaotic knee-jerk reactions, but deliberate strategies. It starts with recognizing the need for change, diagnosing the root causes, and meticulously planning the strategies. Then you implement the new systems, carefully evaluate if you hit your objectives, and finally, and honestly, this is the most crucial part, you institutionalize the change. That means you embed it so deeply that it becomes a permanent, undeniable part of the company's DNA.
But let's be real for a second. Implementing change almost always triggers friction. That is just human nature. On an individual level, people have a very real fear of the unknown, maybe a fear of job loss due to automation, or they simply prefer their familiar daily habits. Contrast that with the organizational causes, rigid corporate structures, group peer pressure that pushes back against change, and managers who are terrified of losing their existing power relationships. It creates this complex web of resistance that can stall even the absolute best ideas.
Overcoming that resistance, that's a massive leadership test. It requires transforming fear into genuine collaboration. How do you do that? You have to actively involve employees in the process, through participation and effective communication. You've got to explain the why behind the change, offer education and training so they actually feel equipped to handle it, provide support and counseling to reduce that anxiety, and crucially, align everyone's interests, using negotiation alongside very clear incentives and rewards. You have to bring your entire team along for the ride and make them co-authors of this new direction.
All right, let's get into part 3, total quality management and global standards, achieving excellence. Okay, so we've established control, we've navigated change, and now we optimize. Enter total quality management, or TQM. What is it? It's an organization-wide approach that involves every single employee in continuously improving products, services, and processes. Listen, TQM requires a massive mindset shift. Customer satisfaction and continuous fact-based improvement can't just be the job of the quality control team sitting at the very end of the assembly line anymore. It becomes the fundamental responsibility of every single department, emphasizing heavy teamwork and process orientation to drive down costs and really boost productivity.
I do have to point out, though, TQM isn't some magic wand, and there is a serious trade-off. Achieving this level of total quality is incredibly time-consuming. It carries super high initial costs for training and all those new quality programs. It requires a difficult cultural and organizational shift that will undoubtedly face employee resistance. And most importantly, it demands continuous, unwavering management commitment. This is a long-term play, not an overnight fix.
Then, when you're finally ready to prove that excellence to the rest of the world, you turn to global standards like ISO. It's fascinating how these work side by side. ISO 9000 is laser-focused on your quality management system, ensuring consistent product quality and standardizing processes to give you a massive competitive advantage globally. Meanwhile, ISO 14000 is your environmental management system, focused on pollution prevention, legal compliance, and demonstrating true corporate responsibility for sustainable growth. They are basically the ultimate blueprints for running an elite operation.
So, to wrap up this explainer, let's synthesize this whole toolkit we've unpacked today and look at how these interconnected levers actually build a thriving business. Control ensures your actual performance perfectly matches your planned performance. Change allows for deliberate modification so you can adapt and grow. TQM drives continuous quality improvement across the entire workforce. And ISO provides the international standards to prove your operations are world-class. If you can master these 4, you can steer any organization through literally any storm. As you take this toolkit back to your desk, I want you to consider your own role in your organizational ecosystem right now. Ask yourself, are you currently resisting a necessary change out of habit or fear, or are you stepping up to drive it forward? The tools to measure, adapt, and perfect your environment are right in front of you. The rest is completely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.